In Gnosticism, they believe that the coming Messiah will be an incarnation, and that Jesus was an incarnation. And that's where he received his knowledge from as a great teacher. And he's one of many who come along in that line. You know, you've got so many characters in there. I mean, just look at Lucy, for example. That's a female character for Lucifer. In the dualistic polytheist religion, Lucifer would have a female goddess because it's a dual god goddess religion, and that's what's being allegorized here. And Lucy is like a fairy queen. She's a gibberah, or like gibberim is male, gibberah is the female aspect of it. And Lucy, I mean, her bloodline is talked about. That goes right back into prehistory to the Nephilim and to the um, to the gods. And so this is a very common understanding of what would be encoded as allegories for the adepts and their children that they're teaching to understand what's really written in there. And so those are just a few quick things that are in there. You could do a whole show on all of the things that are in there. It's based on the seven wandering stars in terms of how they lay out the different stories. The one's dedicated to each one of the wandering stars. It's all polytheism, but it's wonderful writing. I mean, Lord of the Rings is an antediluvian story about the different types of peoples that they had created, and at the end of it, you see all these creatures other than humans sailing off on a boat onto an ocean. That's representing the time of the flood, because now is the time for humans, and they had to leave for a while. And like the white elves that are in there, these are actually, if you look at what the Tuatha De Danann are described as, which are giants both before and after the flood, and the Shea people spelled Sidhe, and Google writers of the Shea, you're going to see individuals that look like these white elves. And white elves aren't the little elementals. They are a larger version. They're a different one than the dark elves that are part of the ugly ones. There's 4 groups of elementals, but these are an allegory for the blonde hair, blue-eyed Tuatha De Danann, or Aryan, or giants, or you could just as easily have red-haired, hazel-eyed, pale-skinned ones as well. And you've got all these different kinds of little beings in Lord of the Rings, right? You know, you've got the hobbits and you've got the dwarves, and the dwarves are really important. Again, part of the ugly. I should explain. There's ugly fairies like the dwarves, like the trolls, like the gnomes, and there's a whole list of them. You've got mischievous ones like the leprechauns, and a whole list of them. You've got good-looking ones like Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, named after a pan god and a nature god. A whole bunch
he plays a flute too.
Yeah. A whole bunch of things going on there that don't have time to go in. I'm on the elementals, but he's part of, the whole fairy culture as well. And then you have a fourth one, which is, I didn't write about in the book, but I do in the second book that'll be out soon. They're called the salamanders, and they're like a taller reptilian being. So they're not as tall as the Nephilim, but they're way larger than the smaller fairy ones. The dwarves, getting back to the story, are depicted as working in the mountains, in the earth, to manufacture weapons and stuff. In their belief system, they manufactured the weapons for the demigod giants, and in some versions, even for the gods. But gods would be able to manufacture their own weapons at will. So demigods are often conflated with gods. He's just telling the antediluvian history in the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, or you get into science fiction like Star Wars. I mean, you got Anakin. Anakin. And some versions on the Anakim for the giants in the Bible is spelled with an N, not an M. And you've got, who you like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, he's an interesting thing, and he's the son of a high priest. And Obi in Hebrew is a mumbler or a necromancer. Well, it's keeping the old culture alive. It's keeping that thing sort of, we swim in a world of polytheism. Like, it's everywhere. All the representations are everywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's in the courts. It doesn't matter whether or not it's in the entertainment. It's everywhere. So it should be in the money of this world as well. That it's representing that there are the invisible ones and the visible ones that we're told about in the Bible. And the invisible ones are the fallen angels, and you could include the disembodied spirits of the giants as well, um, and that are influencing and governing this world, just as Satan is the prince of this world. And that just as there's a God, council of gods for a time that is counterfeiting the council in heaven, and that Satan sits above that council, and that this world is controlled by them. So everything that they're in control of is going to reflect that um, principle. So if you look at what the seven sacred sciences and mysticism was created to do, and you see that today as the seven liberal arts do today, which includes the literary craft, um, it is designed to do four things. One is to lead, and the main one, lead people away from God, right? Put in wedges, doubt, seduce them into some other idea. The second thing is to degrade God, right? And the third thing is not to give him credit for anything. Say that he doesn't exist. Say that he didn't make everything, right? And then the fourth thing is to honor their pantheon of gods in everything that they do, whether it's in the buildings, whether it's in the statues, whether it's in the entertain. Everything is designed to honor the pantheon of the gods that they worship, so that when you go to university today that has the modern seven sacred sciences known as the seven liberal arts, which form the mystical religions around the world, why you if you see Greek architecture or Egyptian architecture or Babylonian architecture that basically makes up most of the architecture of the universities, although I see them starting to replace that with something a little bit, let's say more modern. We just, I think, have to be a little bit more savvy as to what's being built in there. That it's built with sacred geometry and, probably astrological alignments to honor their gods, and that you're going to be educated into degrees. And the names of some of those degrees become rather secret society as well. And you get this sort of scroll diploma. Everything in science is named after the gods. Doesn't matter. Whatever they name is going to be, it's all there to honor their religion because they control the education.